real estate broker. He's passionate about the Playhouse.
There's always something
He's
pressing.
passionate about the Playhouse and keeping Miss Elma Lewis' legacy alive. So he volunteers as the primary coordinator of the summer concert series, which I believe is going to start next week. And he's also the, if I'm not mistaken, you are the president of the Franklin Park Coalition, correct, Ricky?
Yes.
Okay. So I appreciate you coming on this morning. I thank you. I know you're doing a lot of work around the coalition, as well as so I don't know if a lot of people know about the Franklin Park Coalition and what it does and how people can join and be a part, and some of the things that's going on, like around the White Stadium, about the $28 million that was supposed to be going to the park. And also about the, we want to talk about the summer series. And there was one other thing I said I wanted to talk to you about, but I can't think about it right this second.
Shattuck, probably.
Yeah, yes, definitely, definitely. So you have so much information. So let's get going. What do you want to talk about first?
Well, I guess you started with the coalition. The coalition was started in the 70s by Alma Lewis and Louis Elisa and Richard Heath and a few other people. And it was started because at that time, Franklin Park was neglected. You know, people were dropping off stolen cars there, dropping off bodies there, and no one was really paying attention to it. Since then, the situation has changed a lot because now the park is in demand, that people are interested, that never were interested in it before. And we were here all along. So, it's imperative that we make sure we keep watching the park. And so one of the things that Franklin Park Coalition does is advocacy. We advocate for the park in terms of funding and care and stewardship. Also, we talk about issues that are affecting the park, like you mentioned, the development of White Stadium, the substance abuse beds over at Shattuck, the Franklin Park Action Plan, which Walsh had provided the $28 million from the sale of the garage downtown. The other things we do is programming. As you know, we do Playhouse in the Park, Alma Lewis's Playhouse in the Park. We 3 years ago, I created the Franklin Park Jazz and R&B Festival, which takes place September 16th this year. It's going to be the third annual. It's on the same date as the one they used to have in the South End that Berkeley pulled out of. And so we grabbed that date and we created a whole new thing in Franklin Park that so far has been pretty successful. This year, we're going to be having the Avery Sunshine headline, and quite a few other local artists will be in it as well.
So this is taking the place where the jazz festival used to be down on the south.
No, we're not taking their place. We started our own thing.
Oh, okay. So you have one as well as they.
Yeah, I've created one 3 years ago.
Okay.
But we just took that date because it was available because they weren't having the one in the South End.
Okay.
Because if we had tried to do the same date when they were having the one in the South End, then it would be conflict.
Right.
So it worked because the first year that I tried to do it, I picked a date, and then I found out that was the same date as the Cambridge Jazz Festival. So I had to pull it back and didn't get to do it that year. And so 2 years later, I was able to do it, and it was very successful. And then last year, we did it. We brought Margot Thunder back from California to be our headliner. And like I said, again, this year, we're having a recording artist, Avery Sunshine. So it's coming along.
So tell us a little bit about Playhouse in the Park. I remember years ago, I used to go to Playhouse in the Park. That was like I think in the 70s.
Me too.
Yeah. And
she started it in 1966. And I was up there because I lived in Grove Hall at the time. And I was up there just about every night. And she had Duke Ellington and a lot of the big Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Odetta, Olatunji taught at the school, so he'd have the drums up there. She'd have plays up there. She'd have poetry. She had all kinds of activities. and it took place from July 4th to Labor Day every summer. I think they said she did it for 12 summers.
Wow.
And so Christine Parth, I guess she read into the history of it, and once she became executive director of Franklin Park Coalition, she decided she wanted to try to recreate it. And so the first year she recreated it with Alda Marshall, and they had a big show up there that year. Then I happened to see in the banner that she was looking for people who were interested in reviving the Playhouse, and I answered that ad. And from answering that ad, I ended up here as president of the coalition and chairman of the group that puts on the Alma Lewis Playhouse in the Park. So this year is our 20th anniversary of the recreation of Alma Lewis Playhouse in the Park. So we've actually done it longer than she originally did it.
Wow. So Ricky, tell me, when does it start? When does Playhouse in the Park start?
July 11th, next Tuesday, world premiere.
And it's every Tuesday, correct?
Every Tuesday from July 11th to August 15th. July 11th is going to be world premiere. The next Tuesday is going to be, I can't think of the group that's coming. I'll let you know. Theme Wilson. Theme Wilson is the next group. And then the third one is Perfect Example. The fourth one is going to be Glenn Washington, a Jamaican recording artist. That's Caribbean Night, which coincides with Jamaican Independence Day. And then the fifth one is going to be E-Water Band. And then the last one is going to be Recording Artist Can Function.
Wow, that sounds like a lively summer. So tell me, what time does it start? And I remember when I was up there last year, I saw vendors. What if someone wants to
it starts about 6 o'clock.
Starts at 6. And how does someone become a vendor if they want to become a vendor?
They'd have to apply.
Okay, so where do they go to apply?
You could probably go to the website, or you could contact me, and I could put you in touch with Yvonne Jones, who's in charge of the vendors.
Okay, so if for someone that's listening, you want to give your number or you want an email where they can reach out to you?
Yeah, they can reach me at Ricky Thompson 23 and at Comcast.net, and Ricky is spelled RICKIE THOMPSON 23 at Comcast.net.
Okay. So
and spaces are going fast, so if they're interested, they got to move quickly because it's a very popular event.
Right. Okay. And so let me ask you a question. So if they become a vendor for the first one, how does it work? Are they automatically a vendor for the next one, or do they have to apply?
What we're trying to do is we charge $60 per event and $300 for all 6 for the summer. So you get like one event free if you reserve the whole summer. So we're encouraging people to reserve the whole summer. So once the whole summer's booked, it's booked.
Right. Okay.
And so people who are going to reserve the whole summer probably have a leg up on the people that only reserve 1 or 2.
Right, that's true, because their space is guaranteed.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the stadium.
The stadium where it stands right now is that a RFP has gone out from the city, looking for people investors to invest in the renovation of the stadium. You naturally, I'm sure you know, and maybe your listeners don't know, that the White Stadium was donated by the White Foundation to the Boston Public Schools. So Boston Public Schools is in control of White Stadium. And that's where I ran for English High School as a track runner back in the 70s. We had track meets up there, football games up there, all of that. We used that stadium. And on top of that, we even used it for Uptown in the Park. Alma Lewis used it to raise funds for her Playhouse in the Park. And I don't know if you remember when she had Sly and the Family Stone and Earth, Wind and Fire, Richard Pryor, all of them were there at Uptown in the Park. It happened twice in the late 70s.
I remember, and when I was in school, I used to run track around that stadium. So
yeah. So what's going on now is that they put out an RFP because the city of Boston now wants to renovate the stadium after we watched it sit there for 50 years and crumble. Now they want to develop it and they want to make it into a world-class, facility for our students, which is great. But I think it was really the catalyst for it is the women's soccer team who wanted to, development team that wanted to come to White Stadium and use it as their home base stadium. So the plan in the RFP is that the west side, which is if you're facing the stadium, that will be the right side. That side is the side I think that would be used by the and redeveloped by the soccer team or whoever they're not saying the soccer team, they're just saying whoever gets the bid. The opposite side, the east side that had a fire that was damaged, that one's over by toward the tennis courts. That one, Boston Public Schools plans to redevelop that, make it bigger and newer and handicap accessible, and also put in a building with a gymnasium and all of that.
So this is the school department. This is the school department that's going to do this, and whoever bids on the other to do the soccer team.
The soccer team will lease the east side of the stadium and have use of the whole stadium for their games, which is only so many times a year. I can't remember the exact number.
I think
but it's probably under 20 times.
I think they said 20.
Yeah. So that's the plan, that the city is looking for them to finance this redevelopment, or at least co-finance this redevelopment. I'm sure the city's putting in money as well, but they hope to get a good portion of the money from whoever rents it. And from my view, I would say it's most likely going to be the soccer team, because no one else would have any interest in doing that. Who else would want to do that? You know, so that's what's going on. So I think the bids were due on the 26th of June. So I haven't heard any more of it since then. But we did meet with the team who's developing it. And we got to ask them questions and all of that. Naturally, the major questions are the impact on the neighborhood in terms of so many people and cars and parking and all of that kind of stuff. So those are the major kinks that they have to work out, because I think it could be a good thing for the school department and for the city if it gets developed. It needs to change. It needs not to stay the way it's been for the last 50 years. But how that happens is really the issue.
Right, because I did hear about the soccer team, but it seems like to me that if the city of Boston also, because I believe that some of the schools don't have like facilities to be able to do, exercise or games and track or whatever they need to do. It seems like is it because of the fire that they don't have it? Or is it just because no one's just thought about Franklin Park?
Well, when we were growing up, we all used it because most of the schools didn't have it. Most of the schools didn't have their own football field. Most of the schools didn't have their own track. And so all of us, all of the city schools, the district schools, we all competed in White Stadium. Over the years, some of the schools do have it, like Madison Park has their own football field, English High has their own football field, and you could probably name a few others. So the situation's changed a little bit from when we were in school. Right. But we still want the students to be able to use that. And that was one of the things that had to be worked out, and it sounds like it has been. Because in the beginning, they were saying that they were going to try to build another stadium somewhere else for our kids to compete. But I think that's off the table now. I think that the new plan calls for making it so that our students will still be able to use it.
Okay. Well, I want to ask you this. This isn't about Franklin Park. This is just about I just want your opinion on the John O'Brien being moved to West Roxbury. What do you think about that?
That's interesting because it's always been in Roxbury. It used to, when we were in school, it was technical, Boston Tech. Right up on Warren Street where Latin Academy is now. So for them to move that to West Roxbury is interesting because West Roxbury is where I first started teaching. My first 2 years I taught at West Roxbury High School. And at that time, the kids were bused mostly from Franklin Field Project. And the people in West Roxbury didn't want them out there.
Right. And I don't think that's probably changed too much.
Yeah.
Might have changed a little bit, but
yeah, because one weekend I came back to school and I was driving down VFW Parkway, and that overpass that goes over, this was 1978 or 79. Big block letters, niggas go home.
Wow.
So I don't know if I want to be out there.
Right. And I think to me, it almost seems like a setup because our kids have to get from Roxbury and Dorchester up into West Roxbury.
It's a hike. Yeah.
Huh?
It's a hike.
Yeah. And then they say that, oh, they're going to have shuttles. But you know how that works. Sometimes the shuttles don't show up or whatever, or the kids can't get to school on time. So that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And so
And the other thing I worry about is when I taught there, that was a beautiful campus.
Mhm.
And it seems like everything they put there has failed.
They say that
Because
there's
this is
some
not
toxic.
the first group they put there.
They say there's some toxic things going on in there that.
Yeah, it was built on a dump in a swamp.
Yeah, so I mean, but what are they gonna do now? They're gonna make it, they have to do something with that, like get them toxics out of there.
Yeah, I don't know for a fact that there are toxins there, but I do know that it was built on a dump. It used to be a city dump in a swamp.
It sounds like toxic.
So I don't know. I don't know for sure if that's the case, and I don't know if that's even the biggest concern. I think your concern about the students having to travel so far is one, because most of the students that go to O'Brien don't live in West Roxbury.
Exactly.
So
And
I think that's one of the biggest issues.
And the fact that they say they want to do Madison Park, make it bigger and better and, first class. But I'm
No.
sorry, the stuff that's been going on,
Madison Park has missed the mark so many times because that was the old Boston trade and girls trade when we were in school.
Boys trade, yeah.
And those kids left Boston trade and they went out into industry and they got jobs as plumbers and carpenters and auto mechanics and all of that. The kids from Madison don't do that.
Right.
And Madison doesn't make any demands on the union to take those kids in, because those are good jobs that they should be training kids and being in partnership with the unions, and they're not doing it. So
Exactly.
they failed miserably. Yeah.
So I'm thinking, so there has to be a plan, but what is the plan? Because it seems like we don't find out about the plan until it's almost done. I mean, I feel like it was very disrespectful to our community to go on and make that announcement that they were moving that school without talking, to the parents or the students, just, so.
But that happens all the time in my experience. I taught in Boston Public Schools for 34 years.
Wow.
During that time, when they talked about changing curriculum, which is the most important thing, they never talked to parents. And they never talk to parents on almost anything. And then they wonder why the parents don't come to parent night. Because they don't really have anything to talk about. The only thing they got to talk about is how your kid was acting up. Or if your kid's an A student, they'll stroke the parents, say, oh, your kid is wonderful and all of that. But when it comes to really substantive stuff, like what affects the school, the physical plant, the curriculum, the teachers, all of that stuff, they don't consult parents.
It's so sad. It really is sad. And another thing, I mean, in the election in 21, we voted for elected school committee, but it just seems like that was ignored.
Right. I'm not sure if the referendum probably didn't pass, because that's how we got the non-elected school committee, or appointed school committee now, is because Menino called a referendum and got control of the school system. Because we used to have an elected board where John O'Brien was the first Black in almost 100 years to be on there. So I spoke at the O'Brien school, and the first class question I asked the students was, who was John O'Brien? They had no clue. So I had to educate them on who John O'Brien was, and that he was the first Black on the Boston School Committee in almost 100 years. And the reason why it was because of the end of Reconstruction and all of that.
Yeah, it's really sad that it just seems like we as community, we hear about things on the back end. We should be in these meetings, in these hearings, trying to making our voice heard. And I know that there's so much stuff going on in this city. Then I know that parents, they work. And it's hard, but they Zoom all this other stuff. Why couldn't they do a Zoom meeting about that?
Right. And it also is a political power that we don't have in the city, because we just had, we were trying to get $1 million approved for maintenance in Franklin Park through through the council. And we got it approved in the council along with a lot of other stuff that was in the plan. And it was sent to the mayor, and the mayor vetoed it. And, to overturn the veto, it takes 8 votes. We had 7 votes. So we need to, in these elections, is 2, I think it's 1 at-large seat that we have a lot of people of color running for, and Baker seat, a lot of people are running for it. If we get 1 or both of those seats, we probably would have 8 votes, and we could change some things in the city.
Right, because
Because you can override the mayor if you have the 8 votes.
That's what needs to happen, because a lot of stuff needs to be overridden. But I found out last night that Mike Flaherty's not running again. Wow.
That's the at-large seat that's open that people are running
so
for.
With him not running and Baker not running, we do have a good opportunity.
We got a shot, yeah.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. But I don't know. It just it's just, you know, I wonder who else is gonna drop out.
Yeah, I don't know. But like I said, if we get 1 or both of those seats, we should be able to approve some things.
I know
some things that are beneficial to our community.
Right. I know there was the last vote that I saw, and I saw that Brian Worrell voted. It was 7-5. I can't remember what the vote was, but I remember. Yeah,
he voted against it the first time, and I texted him, and James Williams, I know, called him. A bunch of us called him, and he changed his vote back.
He need to. I don't even understand his logic, his thinking around this, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, we called him and he changed his vote, you know, because Brian is on most things, he's for the community. He's out there, him and his brother Chris, they're out there, you know, they're doing stuff for the community. So I don't know what his rationale was, but when we called him, he responded and he changed it.
Well, that's good. That's good. So there was, okay, so we didn't talk about the Shattuck, right? The them houses that they put over there, and I hear that they're trying to put some more little houses over there.
No, the little houses are there. They're trying to take the big building and rebuild that and put in supportive housing for substance abusers, and also treatment for substance abuse patients. And then Pine Street has a program there as well already. And with the number of people they have at this point, they're finding lots of needles all over the park, not all over the park, but in that particular section where we have Juneteenth. Behind, in those woods behind that section, that section's called Ellicott Dale, where we have Juneteenth at.
Okay.
In those woods behind that, we walked the park with Liz Miranda, and they showed us the encampments that people camped out in the woods. And there's all kinds of drug paraphernalia all around the camps, and the rangers are constantly running them out from camping in the park. There's been ODs up there. People have overdosed up there. And this is just with the number they have now. So if you raise this number to 400, imagine what's going to happen. Not to mention that to try to help someone that has a substance abuse problem by concentrating them in an area where everybody else has the same problem, we don't see that as a good solution.
Right. This just seems like, instead of the city getting better, it seems to me it's getting worse from what I can see.
It depends on where you are. You know, like I used to tell my students, it depends on if you're eating an elephant, it depends on what part you're eating. So if you're in South Bay and you move all the drugs, active drug users out to Franklin Park, you know, out of sight, the South End becomes better.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, the South End becomes better because the South End is an affluent community that doesn't want them down there. And so they'll put more pressure to move them up into our community, you know, where it's going to cause problems for us, but their problem will be solved because South Bay is a booming area. That's the only eyesore in the whole area.
Mass and cash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about everything else that's going on there. That mall has developed so much in the last few years. all of the people, residents in the South End, the hotel is there. The hotel, one of the owners was telling me that at one point people didn't want to stay there because there was so many drug users hanging out in front and shooting up in the garage and all of that. People scared to go to their cars because people in there shooting up.
Unbelievable. I don't know. I just seems like that something could be done more than what they're doing. I mean, even in Nubian Square now, you got people down there on Ziegler Street. It just seems like it's almost like an epidemic.
It is. And the thing about it is, it's a statewide problem, but they're making a Roxbury solution.
Right.
They need to spread that out over the whole state. You know what I mean? We don't mind taking our share. Franklin Park Coalition has always had the position that we would support supportive housing and we would support drug treatment for people at Shattuck, but not at the numbers they're talking.
Yeah, it's
A
just like they
fraction of
want
those numbers. They need to put people in different locations throughout the city and throughout the state.
Right, because a lot of the people, from what I understand, down there aren't from Boston. A lot of them are from way out, and so we have, not only are we getting their burden, but also we're losing our own. We're not even able to live the way that we want to live because there's so much other things that are going on that are hurting our community.
Right. And the other thing about Roxbury is that there's already a plethora of sober houses and drug treatment facilities, smaller ones throughout the community already.
Yeah. And some people probably don't even know that that's what they are,
Yes.
But there are a lot of them, and it seems like everything gets dumped in Roxbury.
Yeah, I was door knocking for one of the campaigns, and I knocked on a door, and it was like a sober house. didn't know it was there. You wouldn't know it was there. It looks like a regular 2-family on Maple Street.
Yeah, that's what they do. I remember when they were trying to bring the Olympics here, and we had to shut that down because it would have been a disaster if they had brought the Olympics here next year. It just seems like they're not really trying to help the Black community, for lack of a Black and brown community.
Right.
We get all we get all the junk, we get all the mess, there's all the confusion. Our mayor doesn't listen to us. Not only does she not listen to us, she don't even involve us,
But if you get the 8 votes, you'll have to.
Well, hopefully we'll get the 8 votes because there's nothing but people of color running in District 3, right?
And citywide, yeah.
And citywide, there's only, how many people? There's Cliff Brady.
Cliff is one, yeah.
And then there's Henry Santana. He's he came out of the mayor's office. He used to work for the mayor. He does something. I can't remember what it is. Civic engagement, I think
right.
Yeah. And right now those are the only 2 at large. And it's funny that I mean, it would have been nice if Michael had decided earlier, because there might have been some other people that may have wanted to jump in the race. But now I believe that the signatures are all,
Yeah.
You have to have all your signatures in now. So
plus the other thing is, I think that's one of the things we need to watch out for as a community, of so many of us running for the same spot and diluting the vote to the point that we can't have a chance of getting in at all.
Right.
That's why we miserably lost the mayor's race, because there were so many people in there splitting up the vote. Right.
That's why we're trying to create a new political task force by way of the block. But we definitely do that. That does happen to us, unfortunately. Instead of, I would like to see the people who say they're going to run, why can't they just come together and sit down, have a conversation and say, who we think would be the best? Why don't we because if we get behind one person, we can make changes, but everybody wants to be a superstar.
Right. And we all lose.
Exactly.
Yeah, because we, like in the mayor's office, you talk about the mayor not listening to you. You could have elected somebody who would listen to you.
Right. Yeah.
But we didn't.
Yeah.
And we messed up twice in a row.
I know, Ricky. I don't know. I don't understand why we're like that. Well, crab barrel mentality.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is you mentioned about, Boston, the NAACP convention is coming here this year. And some of the concerns we have about that is that the community might not benefit at all because it's going to all be in the seaport. Most people that go to a convention, they don't much venture out of where the convention area is, especially if they're not from that city or they don't know nobody in that city. So
Right.
unless we can come up with something to get them out of downtown, like we're hoping that maybe we could find a way to get some of them to come up to the Playhouse, to come into the community.
Right.
But
Also, you also have the fact that there's a lot we could have, there's some things going on in Roxbury. There's some people that can do different types of tours, and we got some decent restaurants in Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, a few, not a lot. But it would be really a shame and disgrace if all them people spent all that money down at the seaport and didn't come into Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan.
And then leave and say what a wonderful convention we had. And nobody benefited, nothing from it. From a Black organization. This is not another community doing it to, that's us doing it to us.
Right. I heard that they, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought.
You said you heard something.
I know, I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll come back to me.
Yeah, because you mentioned vendors. I've applied to be a vendor for them. That she gave the address at the meeting. I went on the site and I haven't heard from them. And then I said, well, maybe they lost it. So I applied again. I still haven't heard from them. And the thing is like a couple of weeks away.
Right. That I think that's what I was gonna say, like around about the vendors. Like I know that Linda Dorsino is supposed to be like the consultant, and she, saying reach out. But if you reach out to people and they don't respond, that's not a good look either. And I also
that was the national. That was the national. It wasn't the local people. She gave us a national website.
Okay. So my thing about that is, like, I know national is basically running, but what does Boston have? What are they saying? What are they doing?
I think they should demand to have a certain percentage of those vendors and businesses be from Boston at our convention in our city.
Right.
I don't think she said the national will do the vetting and all of that, but I still think that there should be a demand that Boston gets so many slots.
Well, I heard that they raised $2 million for the convention, that the NAACP was giving $2 million.
I thought the state gave them that.
Yeah, did I say the city?
Yeah, you said the NAACP. The state gave the NAACP
the state
money.
Right.
Yeah, last time they gave them 5 when they got canceled.
Really?
Yeah.
But when we had a meeting when the last time that they were going to do it, they said, Tanisha basically said, well, everything's going to be down at the seaport, and that is so unfair. So if they got less money, it's still going to probably everything's going to be down at the seaport.
Yeah. It has the reason why it's down there is because they're claiming we don't have the facility, and we don't have a convention center in the community. No. And we don't have that many restaurants in the seaport. I only know of 1 or 2.
Right.
And then in the community, we don't have a lot more than like Darrow's and Slade's and stuff like that,
Yeah. I know
but there are a few
down in Seaport, and I think there's another restaurant.
Yeah, Nia's place that just opened. And somebody told me there's another one.
I don't know. Is District 7, is that Black owned?
I don't think so. Do you mean the district?
The district, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it is. No.
Yeah.
But I know there's an Italian restaurant on Columbus Ave that's Black owned. And they have one in Newton too.
What's the name of it?
I can't think of it right now. Let me see if I can find it. It's right on the corner, I think, of either Mass and Tremont or Mass and Columbus. It's an Italian restaurant. And he has a big one in Newton. And then naturally you got Darrow's, you got Slade's, you got a bunch of West Indian restaurants, Yeah,
there's a lot. There's a lot of, like, they had the African restaurants and
yeah.
I
But
wonder.
see, that would take some effort to get people out to those places, or even just to make a list of all of those places. And if they could take an Uber, we got Uber now. They could just call Uber and say, "Take me to Daryl's
Mm-hmm,
from
mm-hmm.
down there," and take an Uber back. But someone would have to make a list of those restaurants and those businesses for people to patronize.
Right, right. That would have been a good plan if someone had thought about that, reached out to all the restaurants and try to come up with a plan. I remember when the Democratic convention was here and Brother Charles, he had that's when he had his limousine service, First Choice, and they were able to come together as community people, and they provided the transportation. It's like, instead of, that would work instead of calling Ubers, right? If
Yeah.
they had different places, different people that had their own transportation services,
Yeah. Plus, a lot of Uber operators are Black or people of color.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of the
Yeah,
operators.
I've never seen a white Uber
Yeah.
driver.
And one of the things we did during that convention is we had to cook out on Moreland Street, and we
Mhm.
invited all of the politicians, and we had to bring the little trolleys, took the sightseeing trolley up from the convention to
Mhm.
Roxbury. And that was the reason why we did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just, I don't know. It just sometimes it feels like we just do things that are not productive to us, that doesn't help us, that hurts us. And I don't know why.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think we just need to just keep the faith and keep the pressure on and keep pushing for change.
yeah.
And logical things like that. The convention is a no-brainer. I signed up right away to be a vendor.
And you still haven't heard nothing.
And I still haven't heard anything.
See, this is what I'm saying.
That's a way if a convention's coming and you're a vendor, you will want to be there because
Right.
that's opportunity for you.
Right, exactly.
And I would think even if you own a business throughout the city, like a restaurant, there should be like a little booklet or something that has descriptions of all of the restaurants and where they're located, and so people can make an effort to go out and have the leadership push for those people to go out to those places and don't just stay in the seaport and spend all your money down there.
Also, I know they have a lot of trucks now, food trucks, and so I don't know if how they move around the city, but
Yeah, if they would be allowed to be in the seaport convention area is the question.
Yeah.
But they could open up right behind the convention center. They have that little lawn that they're going to have this thing on.
laundry.
Yeah, right back
Yeah.
there they could have the food trucks right
Mm,
by the parking lot. That's an idea. I didn't think of that.
yeah,
Because that's another thing is the Boston Convention Center makes them use the vendors that they already have in there for food.
right.
And when I go to Essence in Louisiana,
Mhm.
those people are in there from the community inside the convention center, giving soul food and gumbo and all of that,
Mhm.
fried fish, everything.
Yeah.
But we don't have it like that here.
And I think we have enough people that could do that.
No, but the convention center won't let you in. They have the contract sold up. So you can't get in no matter how good you are.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's almost discouraging, but we just have to keep on pushing and keep, like you said, keep on fighting. We have to.
Because I see it as an opportunity. I always have seen it as an opportunity because we don't have anything here. It's an opportunity to create something.
Right.
Just like Playhouse and the Jazz Festival and all of that. It's an opportunity to create because we don't have it.
Right.
And people come out and they really support it because they don't have it. They don't have that opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
So I know there was something. So I think there was something that did we miss anything?
You want to talk about the Franklin Park Action Plan, the 28 million.
The action plan for what?
And the 28 million.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
The 28 million was Walsh wanted to sell a garage downtown, and he sold it. And he said he'd give 28 million to Boston Common or Public Gardens. He'd give 28 million to Franklin Park, and I think 28 million to Orient Heights Housing Project. So we met with them about it. We supported him on it, and it got passed and it went through. And then we find out that the people who opposed it, the public gardens group, they opposed selling the garage, and they opposed the people building the tower there because they said it would put a shadow on the public gardens. And they brought in a shadow expert to the hearing and all of that. I don't know if you were there. And so they opposed it. We supported it. In the end, they got $5 million as an endowment, and they gave their support. So we went to the city and we said, well, Franklin Park should get $5 million for programming and maintenance, because if you make all of these millions of dollars worth of improvements, you need to have some kind of endowment to pay for the repairs and the maintenance.
Yeah.
So after a lot of fighting, we were able to get the 5 million endowment established, and they spent 800,000 to do the action plan. So from what I understand, I think it's like 22 million or 21 million left to do whatever we're going to do as far as action plan. The action plan, I don't know if you were in any of those meetings. We had lots of action plan meetings on Zoom. And when it first started, it was before COVID. We had a couple of live ones at the clubhouse.
I didn't go to a lot. I remember going to like a couple at the clubhouse, but
yeah, and then they had a bunch of
I don't
Zoom
think I
meetings.
was part of it.
And they finished it, and they had a whole thing of what they were going to do at the park, restoring the Alma Lewis ruins, which was the thing that I advocated for, to restore that back to a concert venue or a programming venue, and to have some recognition of Alma Lewis on it, some statue or plaque or something that recognizes the work that she did. The bear cages, which is smack dab in our community, that's been rotten for the last 50 years. We want that restored. The other thing they were going to do, the edges, they were going to fix up the edges on American Legion and Blue Hill and so forth. They wanted to close down parts of Circuit Drive, but the community was much against that. They were going to do it like in, I don't know if you know, over in, I think it's Sterro Drive over in Cambridge on Sunday. Sometimes they close it down and people can bike and roller skate and do all kinds of things in the middle of the road. But they wanted to do this permanently. So, I wouldn't mind if they closed it down on a Sunday, but not permanent. We got gates up there because of the people blasted music. We put gates up so they couldn't go in the park after a certain hour and have parties. So we have the gates up there. We could just close them whenever we want to have, a day, festival day or whatever, but not permanently because there's too much traffic that goes through the park. So that was one of the other things that was on the list. I'm trying to think of the other big things that were on the list. I think they were going to do something across from the park, that little circle there where the buses come and all of that. They're going to kind of redevelop that, and also up on the hill, that parking lot that's up there.
Right.
So the plan, it looked to me like it could be easy, 200 million. And we only got 28 million to work with. So when we asked that question, they said that they would get money from other sources, which is fine. So far, nothing has happened. The other thing is the tennis courts. The tennis courts over by the Shattuck, they have big, almost foot deep trenches in the middle of the tennis court. It was cracked apart. And their proposal calls for building 4 new tennis courts down there. So that hasn't happened either. Janine Lang is pushing for that, the Franklin Park Tennis Association. So we're looking to try to get some of those things done. The tennis courts, that's a priority for us. The Alma Lewis ruins being done, that's a priority for us. And the bear cages, for us, those are priorities. We support a lot of the other things they're doing except closing off the roadway. But those 3 are priorities for us because our people use the tennis courts. Our people would use the Playhouse venue, and our people would use the bear cages as a social venue, along with everyone else would use it if it was developed properly. And it's a historical site in the first place, and they're letting the granite fall all off and all of that. And it's a historic site. It's a landmark site that should be developed.
So shouldn't that qualify for that CPA money?
It would, definitely would. And that's what we're thinking with Playhouse. The Alma Lewis Playhouse area would qualify for CPA. And the other thing that I want is for a community to be involved in the actual development. not just to have them say, this is what we're going to do and you come and vote on it. You know, we want to be in on it from beginning to end.
Right.
And that's where we're going with that. I think they put, I think it was 500,000 into the budget to do a study on that. But to me, why do a study? You need to hire an architect and have them start making some drawings and plans that the community can look at and say, this is option A, B, and C. Which one do you want? And get going on it. Yeah.
Right. They're always doing studies that.
Yeah, we don't need no study. They spent 800,000 on this action plan that's gone nowhere.
This is money that just is being thrown away, basically.
It's not thrown away. People are actually pocketing and making that money.
Well,
they don't look like us.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is being thrown away because we're not getting it. So
yeah. So it's not actually thrown away. People are really getting it.
Yeah, so, but not us.
Yeah, but that's what the deal is with the 28 million. I think there's about 22 million of it left. And we do have the trust. We went through a lot of trouble to get the trust activated. We finally got it activated. And it's going to be there in perpetuity because you can't touch the principal. Only the interest and dividends that come off it is used. So we are doing things with that. That's why Playhouse is more robust this year because we have those funds.
So tell me, with the Playhouse and these other things, you're saying that there is money to do what you all need to do. You have the money. It's just a matter of being able to have it worked out, or have the architect or whoever. Are you saying that the 22 million is there for those things?
Yeah, it is. It is there, not all for that, but I think we could probably get a couple of million out of it if we wanted to develop the Elma Lewis site, and maybe we could get a couple of million out of CPA, and then maybe we could get some corporate donations or other donations or city allocations that we could do that project. It's no reason why we can't do that project. And they keep talking about study. You know, it's not that difficult what we want to do. We want an amphitheater in there. We want the ground leveled off. We want new landscaping, ADA pathways. That's what we're looking for. You know, because they're talking about permanent bath. I'm not even looking for permanent bathrooms because in the past, those permanent bathrooms have been a source of, crime and drugs and all kinds of things. So I just as soon have them, when we're having an event, we call the porta potties in, and when it's over, we send them back.
Right. Well, I just, I'm glad that you came on and today to tell us about these things that are going on, because I'm sure a lot of people don't even know. And so if someone wanted to join the Franklin Park Coalition, you said they would go onto the website.
They should go to the website, franklinparkcoalition.org.
And there's a fee, correct?
There's a donate button, and if you donate $10 or more and you fill in your information, you'll be a member and you can subscribe to our newsletter and you'll be informed of things that are going on.
Right.
Yeah.
So about how many members do you have now, Ricky?
We probably have a good, I would say 500 members, but we have about 6,000 subscribers to the newsletter.
Okay. Now, how often do you all meet?
Once a year. Its annual meeting is in May.
That's all?
Yeah, that's for the annual meeting. Now, the board, I'm the president of the board. The board is different than membership. It's like the membership is anybody can be a member, but not anybody can be a board member.
Right. So how do you become, how many board members do you have?
We have about 12 board members.
Okay. All right. So what was I gonna say? 12. What happens when you all have a tie?
What's that?
What happens when you have a tie? If you have 12 members?
Oh, we very, very rarely do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, never. Most people in agreement to what we're doing that are on the board. Once in a while you have a few dissenters, but it ain't gonna be that kind of number.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I know that's what happened with our first budget. It was a tie. 6, so this is July. We're in July. So we have 3 more weeks.